Hey guys, so today the Pepper Preppers wants to talk about dehydrating. It's another skill, another tool that you can put into your repertoire that gives you some more variety. It gives you more ways to use food that would otherwise go bad that isn't going to cost you anything.
Right. And Julie and I are big advocates of learning skills. So it's one thing to have food on hand, but it's a totally different thing to actually use that food. And we are realizing that home cooking and cooking from scratch is not a skill that a lot of people possess these days. And life is so rushed, we're in such a hurry, we're working, we're shuffling kids, and time is a precious commodity. So I understand the idea of convenience and packaged, but what we're doing is we are actually hurting our children by not teaching them these same skills. So if your kids see a bag of beans, they see a bag of rice, and they see a thing of flour, but they have no clue what to do with it, it does them no good.
Right, exactly. And I think it can lead to some helplessness in a time when we have allergies, we have illness, we have obesity, we have all these things we're dealing with. And if you feel like you can't physically do anything about it, that you have no control over the situation, I think it can lead to some hopelessness.
I agree.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
So we want to take away the hopelessness.
And in any situation, in good times and bad times, hopelessness it's crippling.
It is.
So we want to empower you with skills so that you feel not only that you can do it, but you have the confidence to do it well.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to impart skills that you can pass on to your children so they too don't battle that hopelessness.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of people, I think, feel really trapped. For instance, today, because we're talking about dehydrating, I wanted to show some of the grades and variety that's out there that can make you feel like I can't do this, I can't store it, I just shouldn't start. So we're going to start out with Mountain House. This is a dehydrated product that's meant to be taken camping.
They're freeze-dried, aren't they?
They might be.
I believe they are freeze-dried.
Yeah, they are. They're freeze-dried.
And I like Mountain House. They're not necessarily inexpensive, but it's quality food.
Yeah.
And everything that we've opened, and I've got a picky family, they're very picky about eating, they will eat Mountain House.
Yeah, and they are good. So what I'm saying isn't that they're not good, it's that a lot of people think in this direction when they think about preparedness. You're thinking $8, this will serve, it says it'll serve 2 people. I don't know if it would or not, as far as totally filling you up. But this is the kind of thing that a lot of people think about, or they're thinking about things like Thrive Life or things that are freeze-dried or things that are even just dehydrated that are going to be expensive and hard to feed, especially a large family on.
Yeah, I don't keep this as food storage to feed us. I have this in our get-home bag.
Yeah.
So because it's light.
Yeah.
And it's easy to prepare. Yeah,
so this came out of my emergency kit. This is not what we store in our pantry if we thought there was going to be an emergency. Yeah, it came out of my food storage kit.
Right.
So this is not what we're talking about when we're talking about dehydrating. This is a convenience food that's expensive, that's a luxury.
Right.
So the next level on that would be you can go to a store and you can get something that is just dehydrated. You can get pineapple pieces, you can get apple slices. Yep. If you have an LDS cannery in your area, you can get a lot of apple. Do you guys have one in your area?
I don't have a cannery.
You don't have one. That's why you're looking at me blankly.
I know.
I wish. If you have an LDS cannery, what that is that the LDS Church has food storage in bulk on hand at very inexpensive prices for its members, but also for the community. You don't have to be a member to go buy it from them. Their apple slices are fantastic. They have a lot of dried goods that are incredibly inexpensive and are very, very tasty. And we eat them on a daily basis. It's not a matter of, we're gonna hoard these and we're gonna save these because these were super expensive. They're snacks we put in little Ziplocs for the kids to take to the park. We put the apple slices in oatmeal and it is very inexpensive.
I've looked into a cannery. I think the closest one to me is about 200 miles away.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, if you ever come up by us, you'll have to come see what there is. Other things that you can do that are dehydrated that are shelf stable is things like raisins. You can do things like trail mixes. And but these are all things you could purchase, but what we kind of want to talk about is how to make them yourself.
Right.
When it comes to dehydrating, you can even dehydrate your own noodles, not because you don't dehydrate them, you just air dry them and then you can put them into packaging.
You can make your own egg noodles with flour and eggs, and you just dry them out. What our dehydrator gets used for primarily is jerky.
Yeah, so does ours.
Yeah.
We use an air dryer in our cabin next to the wood stove, and we do banana chips. We constantly have a load of banana chips in because we buy bananas, we don't eat them all. They're getting a little bit brown. We put them in the dehydrator that's, again, open air. It doesn't actually heat up. It just has air that's flowing through it. You can use it for doing herbs. You can do fruit that's really thin. We've tried to do fruit leather in it, but it doesn't get warm enough for how much liquid there is in fruit leather.
You're going to want an electric dehydrator for that.
Yeah, you want something that comes up to heat. I like to use the, what's the one you said you use?
Nesco?
Nesco, that's what I used to.
It's on the lower end as far as finances goes, but we have found that it is a great product.
I've been using mine. I got it as a wedding gift. My mom asked me, what is it that you want for your wedding gift? And I said, I want a dehydrator. And that's what she got me. And I've had mine for almost 12 years now. It's still going really strong. I like the removable trays.
Yep. You can buy extra trays.
You can buy extra trays, and they work really, really well. So for the price of, I think this was like $6 for a package of fruit this big, and I can do a big, enormous batch of fruit leather or fruit for like $1.
Right. My husband used to buy gas station jerky.
Yeah.
And it was like $10, $15 a little bag. And he kept trying to talk me into a dehydrator, and I fought him. And I wish that we would have bought it earlier because it would have saved us a ton of money because he's going out buying all this jerky. And for the same price, we could have bought a dehydrator and so much meat.
Yeah.
We use ours for, we love strawberries, apples. And so we do a lot of fruit in ours, but our primary use on our dehydrator is definitely jerky. That's our favorite product to make.
Yeah, and it's nice because then you can decide what additives to put into it. You can decide if you want to put a preservative into it. My mom always liked to take the jerky that she made and then put it in the freezer for long-term storage.
We do that too.
Just because it is still a meat product.
Yep.
But what I did want to say is that once again, the mason jar comes in really handy with this. Any homemade product that you make that's dehydrated, you can put it into your mason jars to store it and put it down in a cool room somewhere.
Yep.
And you can use things like vacuum sealers. I do have a vacuum sealer that I just got, and I see that I still always reach for my mason jars.
Yeah, we don't keep a lot of dry goods in our, we have a food saver too.
Yeah.
And we'll put a food saver link in the description. We use our food saver more for products that we're bringing out of our homestead, like we do rabbits.
Yeah.
So we will package the carcass for the freezer in our food saver. That's usually what we're using it for, is to package our meat that comes out of the homestead.
And I haven't tried the meat yet because mine is quite narrow and our rabbits are quite large.
You just gotta shove them in the bag.
Really?
Yeah.
How you showed me your enormous rabbit though.
Yeah.
How wide is your vacuum sealer?
It's only about that big.
Really?
Yeah. So we just
I don't know how you do it.
Right? You just gotta shove them in there.
Really, when you're looking into these skills, it makes a difference that you get the right tool.
Tools matter.
Tools really matter. Quality really matters in whether or not you're going to want to continue to use your tool.
Right.
That is one thing that I learned the foolish way, is that if you're using the wrong tools, it's hard on your body.
Yes.
It takes up a lot of your time. You have the frustration, and you have food that gets wasted.
Yeah, I think the frustration is a huge part of it, because when you're discouraged, you just don't want to continue.
Yeah.
And so if you've got tools that help you, that make life easier, you're more encouraged and you want to continue down the path.
Yeah.
So make life easier, invest in the right tools.
And so if you have, let's see, I'm not sure which one I would really recommend the most. You can use your oven to dehydrate. You can put what's it called, parchment paper on the bottom of your cookie sheets, and you can put it in the oven for like 150 degrees. But the thing is that it takes a long time. It can take all day to dehydrate something. So if you have a wood stove, for instance, we will have things in our food storage, in our root cellar, that we could dehydrate, but we harvest them in the fall. And then winter's a great time to be dehydrating them, because you have that wood stove going all the time, and you can put an open air dehydrator next to your stove so that you're not putting more fuel, more electricity into it. If you are going to do summertime dehydrating and you need it to come up to heat, you can do a solar dehydrator. That is my next big goal, is to not have to use my electric dehydrator. But They're very, very expensive if you have to purchase one. They're
Right.
like $1,500 or something.
Yeah.
They're very expensive. So you
I
can
bought a
build
book.
it.
I bought a book to build
And then
one.
didn't build it, right?
We haven't built it yet,
And I
but I've got the
haven't
book.
built it yet.
I've got the book.
One day we can stare at it for years and it just never happens. I am going to try and get a video up of that this summer. I'm going to work really hard on that because I love my dehydrator. I love my electric one. But I feel like if you were in a situation where you needed to be able to prep your own food, it would
Right.
be really fun to play with one of these and have it be super efficient.
When I like the multi-layered approach, we keep
Yeah.
talking about this, is you can have your open air, you can have your electric, and then if you have a solar, you've got all these different options. So you're not stuck in a corner as far as depending on, if you're totally dependent on your electric dehydrator and for whatever reason the grid goes down or you lost power, you don't have a whole lot of options. So the more skills and options you have, the more empowered you are and the healthier your family could be because you have the ability to care for them.
Yeah. And if you start with basics, if you start with something, even if you make it yourself, always try to go for, well, don't always try, always go for food grade materials.
Yes.
If you're going to be doing anything with food prep, it needs to be food grade. And you can make your own, like my mom did that with her dehydrator. What she did is she took frames and put food grade netting mesh on it and put the food on it, took it out to the driveway, put it on the driveway up on little blocks, and then put a cloth over the top of it.
Right.
And she used the heat from the
The
driveway
cement,
to dry all this fruit leather and stuff because she didn't have a dehydrator. And she went and gleaned and she got corn out of the fields. She had permission from the farmer. We went and got bushels and bushels and bushels of corn, and then we pulled them, the ears back, the silks
Husks,
back,
yeah.
and hung them in the garage upside down so they would dry. And then we got the tool that takes the corn off, and once they were dry, we put them in 5-gallon buckets that she got from the bakery. And so when I was a kid, I watched my mom do this almost for free, almost completely for free, because she could look around and see, hey, that driveway is really hot. If I lift this up on blocks and I have these screens, I could dry my fruit leather without a dehydrator. And she did it, and she was amazing.
I'm pretty sure your mom's a genius.
My mom is a genius.
Moms are geniuses
They
in
are.
general.
Moms are amazing.
Yeah.
So you can start with things like that and then move up. I have to admit, the ones that I use, I have purchased, and I'm okay with that. But if you don't have the money and you want to have an adventure that doesn't cost anything with your kids, there's no shame in just having an
No.
adventure. And
I think that's
trying
part of the balancing act is,
Yeah.
is convenience, time, and finances. And there's this overlap. Sometimes you don't have convenience and time. So you use your finances in order to cover that. And if you've got tons of time, then rather than doing the financial end, you're using your own time.
Yeah.
So it's this balancing act, and you do what's best for you. Take care of your family in the best way possible. Don't feel like you have to spend $1 million, but also don't feel like you have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
So give yourself grace.
Yeah, and I know when I was a young mother and I was at home with my kids a lot, sometimes I just really wanted something to do with my hands that made me feel like I was contributing.
Right.
And a lot of the things I did were not terribly effective, but I felt better for doing them because I was taking care of little kids and I really needed a way to contribute on it. When I wasn't making dinner for my husband, did I have something else during the day I could do with my hands? It's why I got into the knitting. It's why I got into the spinning.
Right.
It's because I felt like I needed something to do with my hands during the day. Doing something like making your own noodles and then drying them and putting them into jars to use for later and having something to show to your husband when he gets home and be like, look at what I did today. Isn't this delicious? So
Yeah, there's a lot of satisfaction that comes from doing it yourself too.
there is, and as you have older children and you can kind of move on from that situation where you sometimes feel a little trapped in the house, it gets to be a skill thing, and you can really grow to love it, and it becomes part of your personality and who you are, and it can blossom into other things like Etsy stores and YouTube channels.
Right?
It can blossom into Etsy stores and YouTube channels and other things because you really are building. It's better than any college, the school of being a mom and learning how to be everything you need to be for your family, and then teaching your children.
Amen.
So
Yeah.
all right, so this is the dehydrating. If you're interested in a cookbook that has things that can be frozen and dehydrated, this book has, what was it? It was the, you can do pasta. She does have pasta in here. Well, I don't really know. So it's dehydrating for me is kind of like a mixed bag. It's dehydrated. I didn't really dehydrate them. I just put them into my canning jars and they're more like a dry good.
Right.
Um,
Chilies. aren't necessarily dehydrated per se, but they're strung up and left for several months to dry out on their own.
Yeah.
And so it would be considered a dehydrated product, while not technically dehydrated.
But you can dehydrate garlic, you can dehydrate tomatoes, you can dehydrate all sorts of things, and then you can use them in your recipes. If you don't know how to rehydrate things, then a lot of times it's something you can put in a blender to turn it into powder form. You can do that
Right.
with garlic and tomatoes and chilies.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then
you can store the tomato powder and then
Yeah.
make it into tomato paste.
yeah, and so there's a lot that you can do because this book uses natural ingredients. You can use things from your garden in it when it calls for different spices and that kind of thing. You can make your own.
Yep.
So make sure to go check out our Facebook Lives. They happen on Saturdays, somewhere between 10 and 2. We try to, sometimes it kind of varies there a little bit depending on our schedule. The Dining on a Dime is in the description below. Make sure to check that out.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe, please. Thanks for joining us, guys.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
I actually brought all this because I was like, we need to have something to eat while we're there.
You're so cute. I've got a beef stick and I've got Parmesan cheese, if that appeals to you.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
And I've got some bananas in the car.
Where did we do they look on it?
Yes, it's that right hand, yeah.
From transfer. I do think we need to talk about skills.
I think skills is very important.
But do we want to talk about oil first, since I think that's our last one?
Yeah, let's go through all our food storage and then